So I thought the more people I serve, the more people I add value to, the closer I get to financial freedom.
I love that, yeah.
And it's the arena called life. But I think too many people in the 21st century just go and see how it goes. And they die slowly. I'd rather die fast, a gladiator's death, than as slowly with regrets.
Yeah. Hey, everyone. Welcome to the Rise Up For You podcast. Today is truly a very special podcast. It is the first one in over 600 episodes that we actually do in person, in studio with our guest. Dariush Soudi comes all the way from the UAE to have a great conversation, not only on business, entrepreneurship, how to rise above your circumstances, but also the politics and some of the things that are going on around the world. This conversation is so good that we've actually done a part 1 and a part 2. But if you're interested in growing your business, your sales, understanding how to rise above, you are not going to want to miss this episode. As the founder of Arena Capital Consultancy, Dariush invests in and mentors businesses around the world, helping them scale and compete on a global level. I mean, he even does a mini coaching session with me on sales and taking Rise Up For You to the next level. His Gladiator Mastery Program has empowered countless individuals to achieve abundance in life, love, and health. Him and I truly believe that you can have it all. And we talk about that in today's episode. Not only do we talk about that, but Dariush also shares his remarkable journey coming all the way from a third world country to a Western civilization, his insights on overcoming adversity and strategies for achieving lasting success. Get ready for this powerhouse inspiring conversation with Dariush Soudi, part 1. Dariush, it's such a pleasure to have you here on the Rise Up For You podcast. Thank you for joining us.
Honored to be here. Thank you so much for inviting me.
Absolutely. And so, okay, this is a special occasion. I haven't actually told you this. We have almost 600 episodes, and this is the first podcast ever that we've done in person with someone. So we're very excited to...
I'm blessed.
Yeah. No, we're blessed.
I'm blessed. Thank you.
So we're excited to have you, and you came all the way from the UAE. And I know we're here to see a conference and stuff together. So for those of you that are listening, anytime I invite someone onto a podcast, it's because either I've seen them in person, we ran into each other, and they're doing like amazing work. And I originally got connected to you. I saw you on Rene Rodriguez's like social media, and he did the Gladiator Summit. And I'm like, who's this Gladiator guy? And that's how I started to learn about you, saw the amazing work that you were doing, and really kind of went down a rabbit hole towards like the impact that you're making. So I'm honored to have you here today. For those of us that are unfamiliar with you, just tell us a little bit about who you are and what you do, and then we'll really jump in.
Okay. Have you ever been to, I've been to a million courses, and you're in the course and you think, hang on a second, I've got no gifts. I'm not the fastest, the smartest, the tallest, the strongest, the best looking. I'm just the average kind of guy. And along the way, being an average kind of guy and being from Iran, went to the UK, I just set about trying to have a better life than I was born in. And along the way, through hard work, started learning things and started documenting it. So I had a bit of a up and down life and started documenting. And I just wanted to be there for other Mr. and Mrs. Averages in the room who don't have a particular gift, and started sharing it. And the movement picked up. I've had a couple of health scares. I've lost a lot of money. I've gained it. Again, I share my wins and losses and my vulnerability, and it's like people like it. I call my movement Gladiators. Now I have about 6 million followers.
I love that.
Thank you. And just coincidences. I've never sold anything. Only came out with a book last month.
Yeah. And
people can't understand why I'm not selling anything, because I actually just do everything from the heart. And what I find people saying is that, one, my story resonates with where they are at that moment. 2, they really feel the love I have for them. Eventually, I have to sell something. I have to sell courses, a community. So we're going down that route. But until now, it's just been self-funded, everything from the heart, and people connect with it.
That's one of the things that I like about you that's similar to Alex Hormozi. I don't know if you're familiar with him.
I met him, yes.
Yeah, you've built your success because you've done it. Right? Like you were in the trenches, and we're going to talk a lot about that today. Some people, and it's not good or bad, they've built success by selling a product, but they weren't necessarily like in the trenches ahead of time, right? Maybe they're really good at marketing, for example. But you are actually in the trenches. You've had everything, you lost everything, you rebuilt again. And so I think it's important for people that are really trying to build success, like getting in the trenches, to see the story of you and kind of how you came about. So I'd love for you to take us all the way back to when you were in high school.
You're going to make me cry.
Who was Dariush in high school?
You're going to make me. I'm not going to cry. I'll come all the way to Vegas to cry. You're absolutely right, because I've been on, again, I've shared the platform with people and say, what's your keynote? I actually don't have a keynote. I feel the audience and I share with them what I feel is right. And I really believe there's a new wave coming of people with authenticity who share their story on stage without having a keynote. I had the pleasure of listening to a couple of famous people last month, and I'd seen them speak on stage 4 years back. And it was the exact same speech.
Yeah.
And I thought, you know what? Thank you. But again, I picked a few points from it, but I never repeat the same thing over and over again, ever. And I think there's a new movement coming in the world, and people like you and I want to share their stories, and it's quite powerful.
Yeah, absolutely.
So going back, I can go back to when I was 3, if you like.
Yeah,
because
take us
that
all
was
the way
the
back.
big move. It's a long life, and I was 3 years old in Iran, and my father passed away. He was 33 years old. My mum was 23, and my sister was 30 days old.
Wow.
And for 1 year, they didn't tell me he'd passed. And the moment I found out, when I was actually at his grave and people were crying, I said, why is everybody crying? So it's your dad. And I felt total distrust. And that stayed with me ever since, that even your family can lie to you. Because for over a year, I was sitting outside the house waiting for him to come home. They said he was on business. And I felt cheated and lied to. And I always say, tell the children everything, because they have the capacity to understand.
Absolutely.
Don't hide anything.
I agree with you.
And then kind of that stayed with me. And then I saw a lot of infighting, because my grandfather, being from a Muslim family, wanted the custody of me and my sister. And my mum is still a beautiful lady, and she was super attractive then. And he said, you go, you're 23, you have a life, go and live it. We'll take care of the kids. And she fought for us. So I saw the mother's love.
Yeah.
And but then we 3 of us went to my grandfather's house, and he died in front of me 3 years later. So age 7, I'd seen 2 deaths of my male kind of figures in my life. And I realized that life is so unpredictable. And I see people now and I think, they live like they're going to be living forever.
Like they have the whole world. Yeah, the whole life. Yeah.
And the Walking Dead, I call it. And even now, I'm 58, and today I live every day like it's my last, and to the max. And we're just saying earlier that I never say no. And when you invited me, it was just an honor to be here. And can't miss out on an opportunity, because you never know there's going to be a tomorrow.
Yeah.
So those things stayed with me. Also, I count. So when I was 7, I was like, how many days would it be till I'm, year 2000? How many days would it be till I'm 50? I just count.
Yeah.
And suddenly I realized that every minute counts. Every hour counts. You got to make things work. And so I'm dyslexic. 77, aged 11, we went to UK to learn to speak English.
Yeah.
And then the Iranian Revolution started, and we just stayed.
Yeah.
Excuse me. It wasn't a very joyous occasion for me, because I didn't speak English. I was bullied at school. I was the first foreigner at this English boys' school.
Yeah, it was a different time back then. Yeah.
Yes, and my teachers used to call me Black Cherry. My teachers.
Wow.
So I was bullied by the teachers. I was bullied by everyone. And then I thought, you know what? I can't go home. My mom's already low, and so I just have to keep it within and learn martial arts. And I learned how to fight back. But even then, I continued getting bullied. I became a prefect, head boy of the school, and that bullying never stopped. But then I decided to learn to speak English without an accent, because a little accent could have meant bullying. So I just thought, if I just keep learning and growing, I should be able to be free from these bullies. So again, that stayed with me.
Yeah.
And then we came to England. I was dyslexic. People thought I was stupid, but I realized I wasn't because I was good with numbers and
Yeah.
not text. My mom was very depressed, and she took it out on me. So I was bullied at home, mentally, physically, and I couldn't wait to be 18 to leave home. And when I did, I just thought, I got no education. How can I earn money? And it's conditioning as a child. They tell you you're the only male figure in the family. It's your job to look after the family.
Yes.
So I thought, how can I look after the family? How can I look after my mum and my sister? I went into sales.
Mm-hmm.
I did quite well, but looking back now, it's quite embarrassing. My sales skills were terrible, but I just worked hard.
Yeah.
At 6 o'clock, when all my colleagues were in the pub drinking, I was door knocking.
Yeah.
And I was getting home at 3 a.m. I lived in Manchester. I was door knocking in London. And it was natural to me to work hard. So it served me very well. Met my first wife. She was into personal development.
Okay.
And she owned a beauty salon. And she was above a post office. And she took me to a convention, and I asked the distributors, what's the unique selling proposition? And they go, oh, it smells nice, or the packaging's nice. I was like, there's an opportunity to do well in this market. So I came to the US, to New York, took a couple of products and saturated it was peels, skin peels.
Yeah.
And saturated the market in UK and Europe. Then there was I think I felt people didn't want to go to local beauty salons. They want to go to out-of-town health clubs.
Mm-hmm.
Opened one, did very well. Opened 7.
Mm-hmm.
We were together for 17 years.
Wow.
We made a lot of money. We had over 600 staff working for us. I was in a rich list.
Yeah.
But we grew apart. We divorced. I met someone. She met someone in Dubai and went and lived there.
Yeah.
Cutting a very long story short, I was on a TV program. I had some franchisees. One night at home, I decided to look after my kids.
Yeah.
I had 2 kids at a time. Knock on the door, open the door. 4 men break into my house at knife point. They're demanding money. One of them was one of my franchisees. I said I didn't have the money. They left. Within 30 minutes, they were arrested. That night, I put my children on the flight to Dubai to be with their mum and safe, because I didn't know if they had families and friends.
What did that? I want to take you back just a little bit.
Yes, without boring people.
No, because we have a lot to unpack. I'm going to come back to this, but I want to just go back a little bit, because this is something that I find very fascinating and that we're constantly studying, within the company and Rise Up For You, is sometimes people have a really challenging circumstance when they're younger, when they're children, because a lot of who we are starts when we're a child. There's a lot of beliefs that are ingrained in us. And we see that some children, they grow up and unfortunately they take the wrong path because they believe everything, all the trauma and the pain that they had, they believed it. They take it on, and then they grow up feeling that they're not enough and that they're not smart and that they're dumb and they're stupid. And then they live a life like that. They live a life very underserved for themselves. And then there's individuals like you that, I don't know whether it's the grace of God or your childhood. So I'm curious to know that you took on all these things, but you were able to channel it in a way that served you versus setting you back. Why do you think that is? Like when you were being bullied in high school, why were you the person at 14 or 15 that said, well, I'm going to go learn martial arts and then I'm going to be, one of the best in my class, versus being that kid that played small? What do you think that denominator was for you?
I'm given one life. As far as I'm concerned, this is it.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to get defeated.
Yeah.
I'm going to win.
Yeah.
I'm going to make this count.
Yeah.
And I'm going to prove everyone wrong. Until about 7-8 years ago, I actually resented my mum for the pain she gave me.
Yeah.
Because she blamed me for her pain.
Mm-hmm.
And then I realized that she was my inspiration, because I want to prove her wrong, that
Mm-hmm.
I am someone, I do matter.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And now I've proven it to her. So, so going back to the story, if you don't mind. I was in a wedding, a Jewish wedding, and a rabbi sat next to me. I would say in my early 20s. And he said, Dariush, let me share with you. Do you mind if I share with you, there's 3 ways people have died. Do you mind if I share with you those? I said, sure. He goes, one is that they have a very happy life. They get old, the family around them, and they're all happy to let them go. Second one, they have ailments, and we're all happy to let them go because they're going to be out of pain. The worst pain in the world is when they're lying there and have regrets. Because I just wish you never have that life. And I just made a decision that I was just going to say yes. I'm just going to make it happen. No regrets. And when that piano lands in my head and my life flashes in that second, I'm going to go, wow. I don't want to go, oh, I wish I should have, I could have.
Yeah.
It's just not worth it.
Absolutely. And I totally agree with that. And it sounds that because some of the heartache that you had when you were younger, you grew that wisdom at a younger age than most people. I mean, most people today, Dariush, and I'm sure you see this, unfortunately, they're living at like the bottom pyramid of Maslow's hierarchy, right? Like they're just barely trying to survive, even though we have more at our fingertips than we've ever had in like the history of the world. It's hard for them to get to that self-actualization, whether it's self-confidence or, trauma or something that's holding them back. So going back to...
May I touch on
Yes,
that,
please.
if you don't mind?
Yeah.
I studied animals, and when a lion chases a zebra, for instance, just at the moment of death, the zebra gives in.
Really?
Just goes, take me. And too many people just give up. And for me, information was so hard to get because I had to take a bike ride, a train, a taxi to get to the library, and then there was somebody reading the damn book I wanted. Now you can just be on the toilet, on a bus, in a taxi. All the information in the palm of your hand. So there is no excuse. There is no excuse. And awareness is so accessible. Education is out there. You can have Elon Musk as a teacher because he's got enough stuff out there to see how he performs. You can have many mentors that you're not aware of or you're not close to.
Yeah.
There's absolutely no reason why we should just give in and give up.
Yeah, I completely agree with that. And I think that you're right about the self-awareness piece. There's so much that comes to us day in and day out that sometimes people aren't even cognizant to the fact how they're showing up every day. They don't realize that there's all these resources out there, or they do realize it, but they don't know how to make the shift, or they haven't studied it, or like you said, self-awareness is a big piece. Yes. So I read a little bit of your book, and I read the story that you're about to talk about when that person knocked on the door. And I want you to continue the story, but what did it feel like to have somebody that was a part of your franchise? Did you know them well? Or was it just part of the franchise and like the loyalty? Like when I read that piece in your book, The Gladiator, by the way, everyone should check that out. The loyalty came up for me. I was like, ooh, what did that feel like for you?
At the time, they broke into my house at knife point, and all I could think was, I could hear my daughter behind the door, and I was thinking, don't open the door. Yeah. And the guy was saying, cut his throat, cut him, let's cut him. And I didn't know, I was thinking, well, cut what? I didn't realize he was saying, because he had a knife to my neck, right? So all I could think was, I don't want my daughter seeing this, because you'll damage her. And thank God she didn't open the door. So may I continue the story?
Please, yeah.
And so that night I flew my kids to Dubai to be safe. They got 6 months house arrest. Now, to answer your question, was that all the signs were there that he was not a good person. I just choose to take the money and avoid the signs. So I'm by no means a victim. I actually chose him in my life, right? And my lesson is that at the time I needed the money to grow my business, and I put aside my values. So what I do now to my clients and friends, I say, don't make a decision based on your current financial situation, because you'll regret it. So again, that's another lesson. I got so upset with the fact that I had to go to court a few times, and then the police negotiated a 6 months house arrest. I felt betrayed by the British police, and a few months later, I had a heart attack, and they said I was probably gonna die. But then I just thought, this is not my time. I've got so much more to give. But if I do survive, what am I going to do? I wrote my values, and I was crying, and I remember I wasn't afraid of death, but I didn't want to die alone. I was on my own, so I decided that for whatever reason, 1st of September 2009, I was going to be with my kids, and I was honest enough to tell people I got gazumped. People pay me 10% of my businesses, not the 90%. And I felt, I got to burn my boats and go. So I ended up with about $750 in my pocket. Arrived in Dubai, lived in a maid's room, door knocked. 3 years I was doing visa runs every month. And now, thank God, and I built it all back and many times over.
Yeah, yeah.
So I don't have to work for the rest of my life.
Yeah, congratulations.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's interesting because I always say that when there's a breaking, there's an awakening, right? When you're at your absolute bottom, there's something in you that either unleashes or it holds you back, right?
Yes.
And again, you can go either way. It's clear that you had an awakening, right? Something just kind of burst out of you. I always wonder, and I'm curious your opinion on this. People that aren't at the bottom. I always say it's easier to get back up when you have nothing left.
So easy.
Right? You take all the risk. You're like, I have nothing to lose.
Correct.
Like, just let's do it, right?
Correct.
It's always that person that maybe is in the middle that it's one of my purposes to try to figure out how do we get that person that has a good job, great family, they're happy, but they still feel stuck and they feel content and they're not really using their potential, but they don't want to create disruption in their life. In your opinion, how do you get that person to really take action and grow and be the best versions of themselves and create some ripples in their life?
Yeah. Amazing. I'll put them in a really bad place. So what I do is I say, if you continue doing what you're doing now, and imagine a big moment in your life. Mine was like when Princess Diana died or whatever happened. And then it's gone in a heartbeat. You look back and you think 20 years has gone like this, 25 years. If you look 20 years forward, you look back at today and it's gone like this. So if you continue doing what you're doing, exactly what you're doing now, and you are 70 years old, how would you feel about your life then? And they'll be quite upset, quite sad they didn't take the challenges. So I put them there and I realized that, you are going to be miserable when you're old and you haven't taken your chances at risk or sacrifices. And often people go, I need to change. You need to put them somewhere where there's pain.
Yeah.
People don't implement change unless there's pain.
Yeah.
Unfortunately.
Yeah.
I say to my son, wouldn't you rather save 30 years, 2 heart attacks, and $100 million and learn from your dad? And thank God they listen to me. Smart people. Do you know when we're most productive when we're past 40 years of age?
Really?
Yes, I mean most creative when we're in our 20s.
Is that because we're closer to what we think is the end? Is that what happens? Okay.
Yes, because the life ahead of us is shorter than the life behind us. And people value the time more. But we're more creative in our 20s because we actually don't care. You're just going to try it and see how it goes. And you imagine you had the value of time and the creativity in your 20s, how successful people could be.
Yeah.
But then the conditioning is crazy. I'll give you an example. One of my friends recently died unfortunately, of cancer. And he just went what the doctors said. And he wasn't open to alternative medicine, biohacking, nothing. He died believing in what the doctors said. Now, I would have died trying.
Yeah.
I would have died looking at every possible option. Yes? Too many people just go, that's my conditioning. That's the way it is.
They accept it.
Accept it.
It's like the zebra, like you were saying earlier.
They just give into the system.
They just give into the situation.
Yes. And the way I describe it, if you don't mind me saying,
Please.
is like we're beautiful jars of jam. And you could be a beautiful apricot and banana and whatever, and berries
Cherries.
jam or cherries. There you are, cherries. I could be honey and cherries and strawberries, right? And then somewhere along the way, some asshole gives us a label,
Yeah.
right? And then what we do is say, I'm a perfectionist and I'm this. And
Absolutely.
And you know what? We die for that frigging label we give ourselves.
Yeah.
And I said, just change the label.
Yeah.
You're a beautiful jar of jam.
Yeah.
Just enjoy being a jam.
Yeah. And people get stuck in that as well. And we see this a lot, I mean, with many people when we say, okay, try this. And they're like, well, I'm an introvert. Right. Or I'm an extrovert. And they, like you said, they die on that label. They get stuck on that label and they don't realize that it's hindering them from like developing the growth mindset to the possibilities of like, well, what if I can't tap into this or to tap into something else? Something in your book that I read that hit me really hard because it's the number one thing we talk about. Number one thing I talk about. I always say the greatest tragedy is wasted human potential. And a big part of that is because of self-confidence. And I read that one of your pillars of the Gladiator, which we got to talk about the Gladiator. For me, it's a samurai. I've always resonated.
Or a ninja.
Yeah.
I've been called a ninja a few times.
I saw that self.
You can own samurai.
Yes,
okay. I won't
love
have you on
samurai.
trading standards or anything like this. Fine.
Thank you.
Yes.
I read the part that you talk about self-confidence, which I really believe is the stepping stone to everything. Because if you don't believe in yourself, and I don't mean what you do, I'm not talking about your job or the money that you make, but like the internal belief on who you are, it's hard for you to get back up in times that are challenging. Speak to us a little bit about self-confidence and the role that it had in developing who you are.
I think there's two things. There's self-confidence and there's self-worth.
Yeah.
To be successful, you have to have a fine balance of empathy and self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I have a lot of empathy. A lot of business that I do, people work with me because they know I care for them.
Mm.
But what I don't do, I don't go down that misery hole with them. So I go, I really fully understand what you're going through. I've been there before, but if you try this, we can get you out of it. So the confidence is the close part. The confidence, come along with me and I'll take you somewhere good because I've been there before. But too many people have too much empathy and they cry with them and they go down the hole and get miserable with them. And they're so deep in it, they can't come out together. Right? So that's, on the other side, you can be overly confident and people hate that word because it becomes arrogance.
Yes.
So you and I off the record can talk about lots of people out there who got arrogance and they don't get much relationship. All they're in it for the money. We'll take you there, do this and that, knowing 90% of people.
Transactional.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. So that's confidence. Self-worth is where you value your time and experience. So I'll give you an example. When I first went to Dubai, I told myself that nobody will do business with me. I was a sales and marketing consultant, I called myself.
Yeah.
And because I'm not been in the country long enough, I'm not successful, I don't have a fancy car, and I charged $1,000 a month, for instance, okay, slightly less, about $700 a month.
Yeah.
10 years later, when I had a track record, I charged $40,000 a month. I was actually had less energy than 10 years before, but the only things that changed was my self-worth. So really, if I had self-worth 10 years back, I could have been super rich by then.
Yeah.
You with me? So I was doing exactly the same thing with less energy, but charging more because I had more self-worth 10 years later.
You knew your value.
Doing exactly as I was doing before. Crazy.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah, absolutely.
So one thing that my mum taught me was never be jealous.
My mom did too.
Yeah.
Is it a Middle Eastern thing?
It's a Middle Eastern thing. You always kind of admire them. They're richer, they're better than us, and but never be jealous. So I always thought, okay, I'm not jealous of that person, but what are they doing that I can learn from to get where I want to be? And why do I turn right when I go up the stairs on a plane and these guys turn left, right? What are they doing? And I didn't ever make somebody like my God. Yes, because I thought, well, when I meet someone, they have pitfalls in their personality that I don't admire, right?
Yeah.
So I felt I could have many different people I could learn from, and I keep asking the question, how can I? So I don't like the victim mentality. I always thought, if they can do it, I can do it.
Absolutely. I want to talk a little bit about, because you wrote the book, The Gladiator. You also have the Gladiator Summit.
Yes.
And a lot of your work is kind of surrounded by that. Why the Gladiator? I'm curious. I mean, I read a little bit of the book, but I want you to share with the audience versus the samurai or the ninja.
Sure. The thing is, samurais were never slaves.
Yeah.
Okay, they were disciplined generals and fighters. To me, most of us are born slaves. And I love Italy. I've been to the Colosseum. I can sit there for hours and everybody's like, he's crazy. And I imagine what it was like those days. So I thought, you know what, if we're all born slaves, monetary, okay, and the more people we serve, like the old gladiators, the more people they entertained, the closer they got to freedom. So I thought the more people I serve, the more people I add value to, the closer I get to financial freedom.
I love that, yeah.
And it's the arena called life. And if these days you start your own business, you're an entrepreneur, and the first thing they tell you is, don't worry, 80% of your businesses that start go bust in the first year. And the second year, 80% of that 20% goes bust. So don't worry about it. And I'm like, if I was a gladiator and I said, here's a couple of swords, don't worry, 80% of people going that arena die anyway.
Yeah.
Don't worry about. I think I'll train a bit more.
Yeah.
Right, I'll practice a bit more. But I think too many people in the 21st century just go and see how it goes, and they die slowly. I'd rather die fast, a gladiator's death, than as slowly with regrets.
Yeah.
So I thought, you know what, this pain I've had all my life had to be for a reason. It can't be just for nothing.
No.
Right? And everywhere I went around the world on these training courses, people used to come and say, thank you for being here. I'm like, who are you? He said, oh, I was 10 rows back. I said, but we didn't speak because your energy.
Yeah.
A lot of people say, your energy. And I was like, if this is my gift, right, maybe I can turn it into helping a lot of other people like me who never had anything. So, and it worked.
Yeah.
My shit worked.
Yeah.
Never planned it, really. It just coincidentally, and consistency.
Yeah. I think that's so important that you say that, and I resonate with that a lot because, some of our listeners know, and I know we're still building the relationship, but I buried both of my parents by the time I was 31 years old. My dad had 6 heart attacks, unfortunately. He came from Lebanon, so he tried to build a life, and it just puts us a lot of stress.
Sure.
Yeah, and I just remember having that same thought that you just mentioned, which is, okay, I have all this pain, but I don't want it to go to waste.
Exactly.
I don't want it, like, there's
those
a reason.
sacrifices
Yes,
that you made,
exactly.
it has to be for a reason.
There's a reason why God provided this in my life. There's a reason why my parents had the path. They call it nasib in Arabic, which is like that was their destiny, right? And I don't want to be the person that says, well, that all their hard work and everything they did, it's gonna go away.
Yes.
In that moment, I remember thinking, I'm going to use all of this pain and all of this fire and transmit it into something that can go out there and make an impact, not only in myself first, because it always has to start with the self, but to everyone else. And I think that concept is so important because life does not discriminate. Right, everyone gets like kicked in the teeth multiple times, not just once, like multiple times, and we always have an option to figure out where we're going to go and what we want to do with it.
Absolutely.
Do you find for yourself, because you have a lot of life still to live?
Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. Inshallah, lots of life still to live. Where do you see yourself maybe in 5 years? Where is the journey of Dariush going in the Gladiator?
I see millions and millions of people around the world following the Gladiator movement. I see my children. Going back a little bit, so many things to talk about. About 20 years ago, I went to Iran to see my grandma who had Alzheimer's. Yeah. She was going to pass. So I said my goodbyes. And they said, do you want to see your dad and granddad's grave? I said, sure. So we went there, and it's been 30 years I hadn't been to Iran. And people turned up to shake my hand. I said, why are they here? He says, oh, as a thanks to your grandfather, because he helped their parents in life. And I thought, wow, what a legacy to leave. So I just decided then I was going to leave a legacy for my kids to keep them on a straight and narrow. And it was very easy, it's never easy, but it was very easy for me to keep going because my children hadn't gone to school for 6 months. And I had to come home and look at their faces like that's failed. And that's very easy to get inspiration. The toughest part when you're comfortable. I've been lost recently when I'm comfortable. I just took a year sabbatical and I felt I was dying because there was no growth. So the idea is just keep pushing yourself and find out desire and hunger and set yourself short-term goals. 5 years, I don't know if I'm going to be here really, honestly. But I can tell you what I'm going to do this year. This year we're bringing out an AI platform when you can have a gladiator in your pocket.
Oh, cool.
So you can ask my avatar anything and I'll answer you.
Very cool.
Like, for instance, I'll give you some techniques. Like recently I spoke on stage in a manifestation program. I'm not going to mention names. And they said to me, oh, the gladiator movement is too masculine and too tough. Although 75% of my followers are female.
Yeah, I believe it.
Right?
Yeah.
Because they want to do well in a man's world and they got less egos than men do, right? Yeah. So they're more willing to learn. So I have a lot of respect for women. Yeah. So I spoke and I got a standing ovation of 3,000 people. And instead of 45 minutes, they gave me 20 minutes and they cut off half my slides because they were worried that I was going to be not manifesting, it was going to be hard hitting, do this. Now, here's the thing.
They were projecting something else.
Indeed. So I went to another seminar in London. And, they spend 3 days motivating people, breaking boards, arrows in the neck and all this, and walking on fire. And I was like, people are dying to know how. They get motivated on
Yes.
Sunday. They go Monday morning,
It's
they look
gone.
at their phone
Yeah.
and go, how do I pick up the phone and what do I say?
Yes.
So I teach people because by nature I'm lazy. I look at the shortest route. So, for instance, salespeople, the biggest challenge is when people ghost them. Are you familiar with ghosting?
Yes.
They meet someone and they have a really good meeting and it says, send me the information.
I experienced it. Yeah.
So I created something that 15% to 20% of people who ghost you will call you back.
Tell me the secret.
I will now. I did this in my seminars, and one guy just texted what I said, and he made $300,000 on the spot. Somebody was ghosting him.
Wow.
So I'll give you an example. So I'm going to charge you for this in your audience.
It's free value.
I'm kidding. So subject matter, no hard feelings. So if you receive a message that says no hard feelings, what are you going to do? You're going to open it. Okay? And you say something like, Nada, we had a great meeting on Friday. I thought it was fantastic. I got super excited to work with you. And we spent the whole week or weekend working on your proposal. Somewhere along the way, unfortunately, we missed it. Because I heard that you're not going to go ahead with us or you've been avoiding me. I just want to say, really, no hard feelings. Okay? I don't win every sale I sit. I lose some, but the only thing I ask you is to just let me know where I went wrong so I can learn from it.
Right.
No hard feelings. And 15 to 20% of people will message say, no, actually, let me tell you what happened. Okay?
Yeah.
Because most people are decent human beings. They just don't want to hurt your feelings.
Yes.
So they avoid.
Yeah.
And then the more times you call, then you're thinking, now I look desperate. What do I do now? What do I send them?
Yeah.
So I try to systemize sales and business. Where I sit in the room is no coincidence where I sit in the room.
Absolutely.
How I hold my business card, there's no coincidence. How I say, hope you're having a good day. I don't say, hello, how are you? Because I want to dictate how the conversation goes. Everything with the Gladiator has been systemized. So I close 99% of my sits.
Yeah.
Because of that.
I love that. And the interesting thing that you just said about the sales component is no matter what you get back, it's whether they say yes or no, at least they give you the answer. Because a lot of times when you're running sales, you don't know why they're not responding. But I also find value in the feedback, right? Well, the price was too high.
Yes, great market research.
Yeah, absolutely. Yes. I love that. This has been an amazing conversation. I really appreciate you. I want to jump into the power section of the interview. So some like rapid fire questions. So when you wake up in the morning, what do you do? First things.
I thank God, I smile, and I decide to help as many people as possible.
I love that. What makes you cry on demand?
On demand?
Like what's the one thing that you start crying and you can't hold it back?
My childhood.
Your childhood. Beautiful.
A lot of pain.
Yeah. It's like comes back to you. Yeah.
I feel sorry for the kid. I don't feel sorry for me. I feel sorry for that child who didn't really choose that life.
Yeah, I understand that. We're really big on self-confidence here. I know we talked about it earlier. If you were to rate yourself 1 through 10 on self-confidence, 10 being amazing, 1 being danger zone, what would you give yourself and why?
8, work in progress.
Yeah.
But honestly, I look in the mirror and I go, you're a decent human being. You're the best you can. And I don't allow anybody else to, it's hard.
Yeah.
To not to listen to the noise and self-doubt.
To counsel it out.
Yeah.
We always like to ask, if you can leave the world with one final message, we call it our golden nugget. What's your golden nugget to everyone?
Ultimately, everything's about love.
I love that. No one's ever said that on our show before.
It's all about love.
Yeah.
Because most people are looking to fill their cup with love.
Yeah.
And the best thing to do, like my children never leave home, because I fill their cups with so much love. They look at relationships in their lives who's going to enhance them, not to fill their cup.
Yeah.
So the guy who drives a Lamborghini, smokes a cigar and wants followers, or the lady who shows sexy, they all want love.
Yeah.
Attention, and just keep breaking down his love. The guy who wants to be a billionaire, he just wants to be loved.
Yeah, I love that. Fine, I have one more question for you, but before I ask, tell us...
I come all the way to Vegas and you want to wrap it up in 45 minutes.
Is that how long it was?
No, I'm just kidding.
We can keep going.
I'm just kidding.
I
can keep going, sorry.
Yeah, tell us a little bit about where we can find you and the book and all the good work you're up to.
Well, Dariush Soudi official on all platforms, and I'm hoping maybe we can do something together here in the US.
I would love to.
One of the challenges I have, I get people inquiring for me to come to the US, but because US is so big,
Yes.
I'd rather come here a month or two and just meet lots and lots of different people.
Yeah.
But because it's a 16-hour flight, I don't want to come here and keep going back and forth. It's not the best use of my time.
Yeah.
So if I could work with individuals, I spoke to Rene.
Okay.
There's potential there, but then I think he's looking more towards my company to help him.
Yeah.
Because he's a hard worker, he's an incredible man.
Yeah.
And I admire him in many, many ways.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, I'm looking for infrastructure I can work with to really expand in the US. Americans love my accent. They love the softness of it. I don't know what that means. And they love Gladiators.
I was going to say, I think the gladiator aspect is also very attractive. I mean, even for me, when I saw it, I was like the it for me, even though I'm female, right? It just evokes this like sense of power and strength, which I think is really powerful. Final question for you is, as you know, the company's called Rise Up For You. What comes to mind for you when you hear that phrase?
Keep it clean.
No, whatever you want.
I'm just joking.
Be authentic. First pillar in your book.
Okay. Second thing that comes to my mind. It's we're here to serve.
Yeah.
And for me to lead, and most people are looking for leaders. For me to lead, I have to be the first to rise, and people looking for certainty. So that's how I see. Rise up, be the first to take action, have confidence, learn from your experiences, keep moving forward, and people will follow you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was amazing,
That's
Dariush.
No part two, no nothing.
You want to do let's do part two. Okay.
I didn't even tap into anything.
Okay, we're going on to part two.